welcome to The Curator, a podcast about game projects on Kickstarter. I'm Marcelo. You can find all the games from this episode as well as plenty of others at our curated page at kickstarter.com/gamerati. You can also find links to each of the projects I am going to talk about here in the show notes of this episode at thecurators.gamerati.com. If you're a backer of any of these projects, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at thecurators@gamerati.com. Tell us why you're backing a certain project, and we may feature your email on the podcast. Today, I'm going to go out on a limb and bring 3 projects. The last one is more of a shout out, but let's see if I can do that in the same regular 20 minutes. Starting with Chronicles of Drunagor, Age of Darkness. This is a fully cooperative dungeon crawler for 1 to 5 players, and the amazing thing here is that the one player, the solo game, is not an afterthought, a set of rules they made up, they slapped together afterwards. No, there is a set of rules and a way of playing this game that is only for solo players. And that's something that I love seeing because I end up playing by myself a lot. It's from Creative Games Studio. It's their second project. I believe I've talked about their previous project before, which is the Towers of Arcanos. It's a board game, it's a dungeon crawler board game full of miniatures, full of tokens and cubes. Very rich, very full of stuff inside the box. You see how well made it is. How long it took for the designers to come up with all the gimmicks they're using inside this game. So it's a fully cooperative and a strategy board game of tactical combat in a dungeon crawl adventure for 1 to 5 players. Is based on multiple 3D scenarios. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Each of them played separately? I don't know how to say that word. Separately. Each of them played separately or in a continuous storyline. That means that all the adventures of the game, they tell a story and they are a continuation of the previous one. Or you can pick up just one story, just one adventure to play as a standalone match. The game is also made in order for you to do that. Each of the scenarios has its own unique setup, darkness rules, and different goals that will need to be achieved in order to obtain victory. Darkness rules because it comes with a bunch of darkness tiles that get spread as the corruption of the big bad evil boss spreads too. What is this 3D thing? The game uses the plastic trays of game trays YZ, to make levels, to elevate some tiles. So you get the opportunity of being like having a bridge, and below the bridge you have spikes. There are areas in the dungeon that are taller or higher than the previous ones, which gives you advantage in combat. Also, it makes the game really pretty. This idea that you have like a passage below and a passage above, and you can have 2 different characters there. I don't believe I have seen game trays used like that before. The game also comes with a bunch of miniatures. It comes with 5 hero miniatures of regular 32mm in height. Also comes with 20 monster miniatures, 4 of each of 32mm, 6 70mm larger monsters, and the base game comes with the One Dead King, which is the big bad evil boss with 100mm, but expansions comes with larger miniatures with 120mm and so forth. It comes with 40 map boards, 5 hero player boards and player mats, because you have a large area in front of you with all the abilities, all the powers. So in this mat of each of your characters, you have all their powers and abilities and magic and stuff they can do, and the number of actions they have in each round, and you control that with plastic cubes, very pretty plastic cubes that you move around in your pool, and that makes for an excellent visual cue, visual help. You just look at it and immediately you know how much resources you have, how many actions you have left. It's very cool. I liked seeing that on more games. Of course, that makes the games a little bit more expensive than just using wooden tokens or just like paper tokens, like flat tokens. It comes with folding cards that represent the doors, snaps on the bases for the monsters, not for the heroes, which is interesting. It comes with an interactive and very visual turn order where you can put little cards of your characters or the monsters or companions of the characters. You know exactly who goes when. And it comes with the adventures book and an interactions book, because the game replaces a typical dungeon master on an RPG with a series of narratives. Every room you enter, there is a description of the room. There is the rules of the setup of the room, which tiles you use, which miniatures, whatever there is in the room is described to you like a good GM would do. And if there is any props, if there are any props inside the room, you take a look at the interactions book. Let's you get into like one of the videos here, one of the introductory videos with an actual play has a gargoyle in a room. And there are 5 different places in the gargoyle that you can pull and push and poke and prod. But depending on the adventure, you have access to only 2 or 3 of them. They are marked as being part of this or that adventure. So you interact with it, you reveal secret doors and treasures and dangers or clues of what you're doing in that dungeon. And then you move on. You go to the next. You solve the mystery, or you face the monsters in that room, and then you go to the next room, and the same thing happens. There is a brief description and the setup of the room. It's amazing the amount of time and thought it was given by Creative Game Studio in this game is impressive. So in the game, each player control one hero that advances inside this dungeon in search of the source of evil, the big bad boss. I can't speak today. The big bad boss at the end. As I said, it is big. Miniatures of the bosses are 100 millimeters, 120 millimeters tall. As they track the dungeon, the players need to pay attention to their resource cubes. It's a little element of resource management in this game with a dark fantasy vibe, because you use different colored cubes to activate abilities and power, but when they are depleted and you have to reset them, you gain corruption in the process. So you have to balance how powerful you want your hero to be versus how further down the path of corruption they'll go. Something that's making me really excited about this game is that you not only interact with the monsters, but also the elements of the scenario itself, as I gave an example. All along the dungeon, there are hidden passages, hidden dangers, hidden treasures. It's a very rich dungeon scenario. Chronicles of Drunagor, Age of Darkness funds until November 28th, the 28th of November. So we have what, 3 weeks, basically 3 weeks. They need $50,000. They are already, as I'm recording this, they are already over 300,000 with 2,200 backers, almost 2,300 backers. So this game is going to be a success. Just like the Towers of Arcanus was a smash hit, this here is going to be too. It's a very colorful game, very detailed game. They gave thought to every detail in the game. Unfortunately, because of all that, well, you have to pay for that. So it's a little more expensive than I am used to, at least. Joey, if he were here, he would probably say that's not that expensive because he's more used to backing those hefty games chock full of stuff. Because of shipping to Brazil and taxes, I tend to back lighter games, cheaper games, but I think this one is worth it. So the base game costs $99 US. That's the pledge level. You get Chronicles of Drunagor, the core box, plus all unlocked stretch goals. For $169 US, you get the base game, plus the Rise of the Undead and the Desert of Hellscar expansion. Yes, there are already 2 expansions available for this game, plus all stretch goals. For $599, you get all the expansions, all future add-ons, and all unlocked stretch goals. It's limited to 20 people, and there's already 18 backers on the $599. So as I'm recording this, only 2 spaces left to be in the story pledge. Why it's so expensive? Because you not only get everything they are releasing here on the Kickstarter, you also get 1 story arc as part of the campaign of the game. That you send photos of yours, and a very competent artist of theirs create you inside the game. If you go to the Kickstarter page, you are going to see this. They have an example here. You get everything from the bundle pledge with the base game, the expansions, plus the Undead King's Phylacterium box, which is a Kickstarter exclusive. You send a couple of photos, one of their artists will make some sketches, and after your approval, they will show you the finish up process, and you will be part of the adventure. That's amazing. This is Chronicles of Drunagor Age of Darkness until the 28th of November. Check it out, take a look. I think you will like it, and if you have the money to back it, you should. This is going to be a game that you will play for a long, long time. My next game is an RPG. It's called Explorers of the Fantastic. It's a setting book for the newest Savage Worlds edition, the Savage Worlds Adventure edition. It's a alternative atomic horror Cold War scenario. It's made by Battlefield Press, which is a veteran here on Kickstarter. They have already successfully made more than 24 projects since 2012. So Explorers of the Fantastic is set in a parallel timeline to ours. The game takes place during the Cold War, approximately 20 years into the Cold War. Unlike our world, that world is plagued with colossal monsters that came out of the Hollow World. Yes, there is a Hollow World in that Earth. After the first nuclear tests, our world is being invaded by kaiju, basically. Fortunately, the people in that world have 2-fisted action scientists. If you ever read Atomic Robo, the comic book, you know what I'm talking about. What was the name of the characters on that game? It's the action scientists of Tesladyne. So they have skills, they have tech, they have the guts to drive those monsters back into the Hollow World, or, when necessary, to kill them. We're talking about a retro style of game here. So you should dust up your Pulp Fiction novels that you read on your childhood to get inspired. The Explorers of the Fantastic, they can be human people, or they can be uplifted apes, or they can be emancipated robots, or even mutants from the Hollow World itself. It's very pulpy. And you won't, quote-unquote, only face the giant creatures from the Hollow Earth. No. There is also a bunch of conspiracies, not just one. Since, like, we were talking about the Cold War, about a very fantastic version of the Cold War. So you have evil countries, such as the USSR and China, that want to use the monsters for their own nefarious conspiracies and world-conquering objectives. You also have to fight spies and terrorists, also aliens from outer space. Yep. Because the evil aliens from outer space took notice of our pale blue dot, and they are also pose a threat. There's even contrabandists that try and sell illegal technology on the black market. There's something here for everybody. I like the cheesy nature of this kind of game. You shouldn't treat it with seriousness. The art is very comic bookish, very cartoonish, and it's not meant to be a terrible down game. It's meant to be an adventure game on a atomic horror alternative Cold War history. But the game is very colorful, and also it's made to Savage Worlds, so you are going to be using all the pulpy action hero tropes that the characters in that game usually have. Oh, I know Savage Worlds has plenty of very gritty horror scenarios. I even have 2 of them. But Savage Worlds serves everything, and they prefer. I think Savage Worlds favors pulpy action or pulpy suspense. All right. So the book comes with the rules. The book initially has about 200 pages, but with each stretch goal completed, they will thicken the book. And it comes with the base rules based on the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition in order for you to create your heroic action scientist and equip them with the highest tech possible, even their own personal vehicles. So you can kind of have a mask vibe here somewhere. There are rules for creating the giant monsters, either for the player characters to fight against or for the players to run. Cool. There are rules for creating the video vehicles for player character, from flying mini-subs to rocket ships. There are new races for the Savage Worlds: intelligent apes, emancipated robots, and character concepts. Giant monster expert, science police, super scientist. You can use that on other games too. There is a complete overview of the alternate history of this world, incorporating the giant monsters, the super scientists, the explorers of the fantastic, which is the group that the players are part of, alien invasions, and other Atomic Age and Silver Age stuff. It comes with also a bunch of arch enemies already set for you and some scenarios. The game is initially on, the book's going to be printed initially on 2 colors. I don't know if it's black and white or blue and white, but the second, where is it? Let's take a look at the stretch goals, because I'm already entering in the subject of the stretch goals. So as they hit $27,000, Bill Keys will write the Sea Exploration Action Laboratory, a multinational consortium of brilliant scientists, engineers, and explorers gathered together to monitor the dreadful Great Pacific Rift and the monstrous creatures that far too often emerge from it. At the mark of $25,000, Sarah Farb Martinez will write a game of cat and mouse. Actually, giant cat-like monsters, created by a Soviet scientist to stop an infection of lab-grown giant mice gone rogue. For $31,000, the book becomes full-color art. For $33,000, Jesse Scoble and Devinder Tiara will develop a scenario where the explorers of the fantastic have been to space several times and made it as far as the 10th planet, Planet X. And then there is more scenarios at 35,000, 37,000, 39,000, and it goes on and on. So this book can get very thick very quickly. We have until the 27th of November for this Kickstarter. So what, 3 weeks too? A little under 3 weeks? 3 weeks. They need $25,000. They just began. They already have 160 backers, but they haven't reached their goal yet. But I'm sure they will, because it's Savage Worlds scenario, man. You gotta. It's like Pokemon. You gotta get them all. By Battlefield Press. They are very experienced here on Kickstarter with more than 24 projects. My third and last project, which is unusual. Let's see if I don't go over. Maybe I already went over my 20-minute usual mark, but I'm gonna go very quickly around or about Cthulhu Playing Cards and Game Encounters by Albino Dragon. I love that company. I have a bunch of their card games. I have a lot of their deck building games, not decks of cards. Back when I could, I used to collect card decks. Those made by Bicycle, or those made by Theory 11, which is a British company that makes decks of cards for magicians. They're beautiful. They're different. They're very well done. And Albino Dragon also makes those decks. I believe I have the 2 of them from Lovecraft, from Cthulhu. They released half a dozen games inspired by The Princess Bride. I have 3 of them. I have the playing cards of Cyberpunk. I have the playing cards for, I think, The Princess Bride. Anyhow, I love them, and I can't wait when they release a new Kickstarter. This is a new Cthulhu playing card. I believe their first project was a set of playing cards for Cthulhu. This one is a little different. So it starts with a regular set of card decks made by Bicycle, inspired by Call of Cthulhu and other stories. And so it comes with amazing, very well crafted, horrific, tentacled, anthropomorphic monstrosities that can invade your next card game in a complete official Cthulhu-themed bicycle playing card deck. So it comes with most of the characters from the stories of H.P. Lovecraft, with their special suits, like the king, the queen, the jack. They come with full color illustrations of the size of the card. Yeah, they are confirming here. The first project using Cthulhu playing cards was in 2012. And now they're doing it again. It was about time. It's very different. Very different than the original playing cards that I have. The backs are more... I don't want to say more creative. They have a different art style. It's a little more kinetic. The first one was more classic illustrations of the early 20th century. So it has the standard deck for $8, the premium deck with foil card backs for $12, and the combo you can get both for $18. And you can get an add-on for $40, or you can just get that add-on instead of the cards, which 100 game counters. I happen to have some game counters of theirs from the original Cthulhu project. Actually, those are poker cards. These here are poker cards made of ceramic, and they're making now a box with game counters. Or you can get just one coin. For extra $10, you can get a large-sized coin with Cthulhu, kind of a manga-style Cthulhu on one side. And there will be more options coming soon as the stretch goes, because they still have 17 days to go as of the recording of this. So it goes up until the 22nd of November. It's a Friday. They are already over their $5,000 US dollars stretch goals with 265 backers. I'm one of them. And yeah, take a look. If you like cards, if you like playing cards, if you like to replace cards on your game with specialty cards, or if you're interested in the game counters, take a look. I think it's a very cool addition to your game. All right, so I think I made it. I think I made 3 projects without extending a lot into my regular time slot. I don't know. I'm gonna find out when I edit this. Okay, so that's it for another episode of the show. If you have any questions about the games I featured here, or if you'd like me to consider a game on the podcast, feel free to email me at thecurators@gamerati.com, and I will answer you on the podcast. You can also reach myself on Twitter and Facebook at Gamerati. The show notes for this episode and all our episodes are at thecurators.gamerati.com. You can also find The Curators on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Don't forget to check our curated page at kickstarter.com/Gamerati. Me, Joey, and Ed add different games, and we put a sentence with our comments on the project all the time. We try to keep that Kickstarter curated page very thick with options. And we're also on YouTube at youtube.com/Gamerati. See you next week.